Are they robbing the 911 funds around here? I think so.
The Dan York State of Mind program is brought to you in part by Lookout Rhode Island and Taco Comfort Solutions.
I have to break it to you, it's not unusual that the state of Rhode Island asks you for money for a certain thing and then says thank you very much and uses it for something else. But there's something acute about the little fee that you pay for 911 services, and the robbery here is arrestable as far as my guests are concerned. I mean, I'm not going to put words in their mouths, but I'll use some creative license here. It's nuts. And what's really interesting about it is that public officials kind of look in the eye and say, yeah, we're doing it. It's very, very strange. So my guest tonight will talk to us about that. Great to have you aboard. Thanks for tuning in to My State of Mind. In Washington, the Democrats are deciding that they're going to throw a full court press on the president right now, which has a real chance, I think, of boomeranging. When you put 81 subpoenas out there and you suggest that you're just trying to cover all the bases, His Honor screams, you're crazy, you're crazy, you're crazy, and elevates the discussion of a witch hunt. Here's what the network had this afternoon.
President Trump says he's not worried about the House Democrats' sweeping new probe.
I cooperate all the time with everybody. And you know the beautiful thing? No collusion. It's all a hoax.
The House Judiciary Committee sent document requests to 81 individuals and institutions, including the president's sons and executives from the Trump Organization.
It's a political hoax. There's no collusion.
Well, if there's no collusion, they've got nothing to worry about.
Maryland Democrat Jamie Raskin, a member of the Judiciary Committee, points out the special counsel's Russia investigation has already led to criminal charges against some Trump associates.
We think that there's a real threat to the character of American government because all of this criminality is taking place.
Yesterday, 3 other House Democratic chairmen sent letters to the White House and State Department asking for documents related to the president's conversations with Russian President Vladimir Putin.
Now look, all these inquiries on their individual face seem legitimate to me. But the artist that the president is, he will collate this and just more or less summarize it as an overreach. When the House went after Bill Clinton with subpoenas, they issued 1,200. I doubt that many Americans will do the history on that and balance this effort versus that effort. It's going to be a really interesting play here because the House Democrats think that they have a constitutional responsibility to fill in the gaps of what's between the Mueller investigation and the Southern District of New York and ask their own questions. In fact, they have oversight responsibility, no doubt. What will be interesting is how they play it. And I'm thinking they could have gone 2020, 2020 and said, you know what, we still need a couple of other things rather than laying 81 out there right now. There's some very interesting characters on that list. But this is all a game of public perception because at the end, regardless of whatever criminality is unearthed by Congress, the adjudication of this is political. So, here we go. Alrighty. Back here at home, by the time you're watching this at 7:30, the conversation may still be going on. If you're watching this at midnight, it probably adjourned, perhaps with a vote. Headline here. This is a real sticky wicket, and there's a lot of emotion that rolls in through here. But here's a funny thing about it. I can't ring a phone line on the radio on this. Not that I do a radio show for the express purpose of ringing phone lines. They are a support to the show, not a need for the show. But I have noticed over the course of the years that the abortion conversation is a complete non-starter for everybody. This particular matter is interesting in the sense that we've got a worry, we being the state of Rhode Island, have a worry about the now conservative-leaning and maybe really conservative being Supreme Court in Washington, right, our United States Supreme Court, and what may happen with Roe v. Wade. And because we've got some old law in Rhode Island regarding abortion, the understandable mission from the pro-choice advocates and legislators out there is to match the language up with that which is written on Roe v. Wade's template. If Roe v. Wade goes away, most likely it will just be a discharge to the states for the states to be able to handle this conversation. And if we don't have the codified language that matches Roe v. Wade, we might be in a little bit of a situation. Now, I think that there would be plenty of time for us to react to that. In other words, if the Supreme Court shut down Roe v. Wade or discharged responsibility to the state, then we'd have a more acute conversation. I don't know. Preparation by our legislature is not something that is usual, but in this particular emotional and very, very polarizing case, they're trying to get this thing done now. The key is the insertion of the word health into language that Rhode Island has in terms of protection for the life and the health of a mother. And there is no determination as to what the time frame is for the pregnancy. This extends all the way until birth. I don't believe that the pro-choice advocates out there are trying to pull a fast one and trying to legalize late-term abortion. I think the numbers speak for themselves. Less than 1% of those abortions that are done are, in the third trimester. As a guy who considers himself pro-life, I find it to be a very hard conversation. The bishop is putting a lot of pressure on the Speaker of the House, who has announced himself as pro-life, but who is allowing this process to go through the House committee, the Judiciary Committee on this. I think the Speaker can allow the vote and vote no. If the bishop wants him not to allow the vote, what the bishop is saying is, the bishop wants to continue to pervert the process of free debate, which, by the way, is the normal and sundry way of doing things in Rhode Island, because if the Speaker doesn't like something, he just doesn't let a vote in. So it's a conundrum, and we'll watch it carefully because it's not over tonight, I can promise you. All right, speaking of conundrums, let's throw this headline up, Eric, and let's get into this conversation about 911 funds. Robin is here, and a citizen watchdog who is watching everybody. I know because she emails me a lot on the radio side and has been really pushing this conversation as a real faux pas of state government. And Dr. Fine is our former medical director who is hooked up with her to make the arguments about priorities. Welcome to both of you.
Thank you for having us.
By the way, I saw you, I think it's out of my right eye. I might have seen you nodding a little bit on the abortion thing. As a health issue, did you weigh in on this? I don't mean to throw you a monkey wrench here, but did the health department, when you were there, weigh in on this conversation?
We did not.
You did not, and so you'll punt. You didn't come here for that, but you've seen state government operate, and you know that there are some conundrums in terms of process here, no doubt about it. Let's talk about this particular matter. Robin, lay it out for us. What is the beef?
Where the 911 fees are going is the major issue.
And the 911 fees they come from people paying their bills.
Yes, they come from subscriber surcharges on your phone bill. It's a third-party surcharge that the phone companies apply, and it's the state of Rhode Island's been enabled to collect these fees in this manner by the federal government in order to fund their 911 call center operations. We don't have to do that. We could actually pay for it out of our own tax dollars, but we've been allowed to by the federal government to enter into these agreements, the transactional agreements, to obtain these subscriber fees through the phone companies.
Right.
So inherent is that the phone company is telling you that you're paying for 911 on your phone bill. There's something called the Truth in Billing Act that they have to follow. And there is a continuum that must follow those fees. The expectation by the consumer paying the charge is that the state receiving the remittance is using those fees only for 911. This is a different kind of fee. It's not the same kind of a fee that you would pay if you were going to have your car inspected, or you're paying a fee at the DMV. It's a third-party surcharge. There's different qualifications to it.
Right. And we're not using it all for what we need to be using it for. In fact, the feds fined us for this a while back, right?
They're not fining us. What they do is they say that you're not complying with the normal process expected, and they report you as you're in non-compliance with their expectations. So you're ineligible for next generation federal grants that are handed out through the FCC.
Have we been penalized?
We're penalized by not being able to apply for the grants. There's a $115 million pool of money that we were not we had no access to.
In what category?
help us make the transition to what they call next generation 911. That the technical particulars of all that.
So the grant money actually
have.
is in the same category of expenditure. The grant money that
Yeah,
is
we
supposed
would
to
have
come to
access
us.
to it. We don't have access to it because we can't show that we're expending all our dollars on 911 appropriately.
It's kind of like, mom and dad saying, listen, you can't stay out to midnight because you can't get home by 10 o'clock.
That's exactly right.
That kind of thing, right? I want to hear the medical professional's perspective on this because while it seems like a simple problem, it's got a bunch of tentacles. We'll be right back. Stay with us. All right, so there's your 911 facility. So I guess upgrades are always in the offing, right, for this technology, and there's all sorts of new things that can be done. What is our? Do we know what our current status is in terms of what we're producing for the money we're generating at all, 911 wise? Meaning, are we as technologically sound as our competitive states?
Well, this is where we have some opportunities. We don't have real-time GPS. So if you're in a rural part of the state and you drive off the road, we can't find you if you call on your cell phone.
Can they find you in Mass?
They can find you in most other states. They can't find you here because we haven't integrated GPS yet. We have a triangulation system that gets us to finding you within about 3/4 of a mile, but not much more precise.
Do you have to have
than
your
that.
GPS locator on in order to be found?
No, I think
Any phone call
any
made?
phone call after phones made after 2005 would allow you to be found if we had this technology.
Is that the only non-competitive product that we don't have, or is it more that we're lacking?
That's more.
It's more.
Yeah,
I mean-
the text to 911, from what I understand, is related to the GPS situation. It's only partially implemented. We
recently
can
got
send
that.
the message.
The text to 911 just happened recently.
Yeah, they can send the message, but no, unless they can tell them where they are, that they can't be found.
That's a big one. I think that would freak people out.
Well, certainly.
At least in modern day. I mean, in the old days when nobody could do that, there wasn't an expectancy that you could be found.
Right.
But now,
in the old days, nobody was calling from from a cell phone.
right.
Everybody knew exactly where they were because they were calling from a landline. Now,
Traceable.
Three-quarters.
Gotcha.
3/4 or more of us are calling in by cell phone, and we can't find
So in essence, with the progress of time and technology, we've actually stepped backwards because if you called from a landline in the old days, they knew how to trace the
That's
landline.
exactly right.
That's ironic, isn't it? In some ways?
That's why you have to reinvest this money to make sure that you stay up with what's happening.
Right, so let's throw up a couple of graphics here, Eric. I just want to show people what the financial discrepancy is here. That would be a headline. Give me the full screens if you can. Well, first of all, let's talk about this. This is a petition that you are commandeering out there
Correct.
in the community. The petition is 911 for 911, meaning there's an emergency about the emergency number, right?
Exactly.
What is the emergency, other than what we've just explained?
The emergency is all around funding. Once the funding is appropriate, then we hope that money would be spent on the technologic upgrades we're talking about. We hope that it might be spent on something called emergency medical dispatch, which other states have and we don't have, which means you have a medical professional sitting at 911 able to talk people through how to deal with the emergency until rescue arrives. We don't have that now. We have people who have had a CPR course, but we don't have the level of expertise that other places do. Other places, not all, but some, use a nurse practitioner or PA on site who can really talk a witness through. If I have a cardiac arrest right now and you call 911, they'll dispatch somebody, and then you'll wait. If you don't know CPR, you can wait and watch me till rescue arrives. But nobody's going to be able to really talk you through it. Nobody who's done it before and knows exactly what it feels like.
Have we
and how to
found,
work.
has the research and or the productivity that we've seen in other places shown that talk through to an untrained person actually is effective?
I am told from my colleagues in emergency medicine, haven't seen this data myself, but I'm told from colleagues have described that in other places with emergency medical dispatch, survival to hospital after cardiac arrest is 50%. In Rhode Island, I'm told it's 10%.
What?
The
That's a
medical,
big number.
Members of the Rhode Island Medical Society testified at the Summit for Safety that Rep Lancia, one of the graphics you put up first, Rep Lancia held last February. And they testified to what Dr. Fine's saying, that it would be more beneficial if even the call takers were trained more effectively to walk people through.
Do we know
CPR.
what the cost is associated with training up people or hiring new people to be able to do that?
All my research has been focused on why we're not, why all these failings are happening. So all my research is focused on how to deal with fixing the problem, with how we manage the money and who oversees it. So I haven't done any of that research.
There hasn't been a formal study. I did some back-of-the-envelope calculation, which suggests to me probably in the range of $500,000 to $1 million a year.
Oh, okay.
but-
I mean, it's not chopped liver, but it also seems to fit into the what seems to be the missing numbers based on what the allocation is supposed to be and what the take actually is. And when we come back, we'll show you those numbers. Stay with us. All right, so you may be wondering if you've been listening to this program, if you missed any part of the conversation, of course, you can always go to foxprovidence.com where every program is up by the evening of the show that we are producing. The 911 fees that you are spending as a consumer allocated on your bill to the service are in the neighborhood of what, Robin? $14 million-ish on average, right?
A 5-year average.
5-year average. But the actual number that we are spending, you see those fiscal years across the board, 6, 8.
That's the money collected.
Yeah, those are the monies collected.
Wired and
Okay,
wireless
that's what
charge.
adds. That's what adds to the 14 million.
Yeah, so
I got you.
this is a House panel, House fiscal reports every year, and those are the numbers that they're reporting.
We actually have another. We have another graphic that I can throw up just to say that we have it. The one that I said to kill there, Eric. But we can. There's not many of you that are going to be able to see this. But the actual number circled in the corner is the actual number that is being used.
Okay,
for
so
that
the
purpose.
the actual number Office of Management budget provided to the governor to put in her budget this
Like
year.
6 and change.
6 and change.
Okay, so it's very simple. They charge us 14 million. They use 6 for something that you say we're behind on. You say we're behind on.
Definitely.
And if I'm hearing you correctly, most of the money needed to accomplish that which we can get up to code is inside that $14 million, correct?
Yes.
That's the way it looks.
So what up with that?
Well, that's why we're here. This is about the engagement or lack of engagement of everybody in Rhode Island in thinking through, whether we're getting the service that we need. As you said before, this is essentially a political problem. When there are 10 or 20,000 of us who stand up and say this is nuts, then I think the legislature will change. As long as there are only a couple of hundred, my guess is it'll happen
it's
the way it's always happened.
interesting that you say that. Perhaps on your petition you're going to need that kind of volume, but I will tell you that I have casually studied the nature of politicians most of my working career, and when 3 or more are gathered in front of them, they start to get they're a little nervous. Their knees wobble over a dozen, and if 100 show up in a room, all of a sudden they think the whole world thinks what that 100 thinks. So physical presence to object to anything in government can go a long way. Where have we been in terms of this conversation in budget processes and everything else? By the way, how long have we been robbing the till here?
Since
the entire
2002,
way? Which is when we started
we
this
have
allocation.
data that shows that they are not fully expending all the 911 fees.
Is that when we started charging the fee?
No, and it goes back to the 90s.
So we were in compliance for a while. In other words, we were using all that we were
only
charging.
using the wired line. When they added the wireless line, the
Gotcha.
fees started to jack up.
See ya.
So
Okay.
they kept rolling forward the budget amount and would add to it a little bit and add to it a little bit, and now it's at 6.7. But my argument is that the bottom line is it's a subscriber surcharge. So you're telling the consumer, and I have to go back to this. I don't really want to get into legal details, but you're telling the consumer that they're paying for 911. We have an inherent responsibility to use those dollars only for 911. They are being commingled in the general revenue. They could be possibly inflating the Center for Medicaid Service budget. They could be possibly inflating any other budget we spend money on in the state. So we're walking a very fine line of liability.
This is not abnormal behavior for Rhode Island government.
We're not only placing health vulnerable, we're also placing ourselves legally
I understand, and I think you need to get this, folks. This happens all the time. This dedicated revenue stream idea went out a long time ago here in the state. They will charge, for instance, like the DEM is looking for another $1.5 million for the beaches. It doesn't mean that there's a fund for the beaches. It just means it's going to pay the general fund, and hopefully they allocate, the amount of people to clean the potties. I mean, it's and take out the trash. There's that dark hole known as the general fund where monies go in, and you hope that they get dispersed based on what the promises have been. But this is different. This is regulated.
Yes.
This is a third party. You're violating really the law on this.
It's unfair and deceptive practice.
I remember talking to Colonel O'Donnell about this a handful of years ago on both the radio and the television shows, and he shrugged his shoulders and said, I'll defend my budget because this is all we can afford and I need some of that money. He perceived that some of that 911 money was going outside the 911 services, but actually was still incorporated within his public safety budget.
It's not.
And you don't think that's true
Oh,
anymore.
I know it's not true.
Well, it might have been true back then, I'm not sure, because it's hard to follow, right?
They can legitimately show they have no way of tracking back to 2002 where they went.
Okay, moral of the story is, and I want you guys to each have a final say on this, we are both short in what we can do now with the money in terms of services and technology, and we are cheating ourselves of future grants which can also help in this category. So we're getting whacked in two different ways.
Yes.
Your final thought on what we need to do about this?
We can do better than this. We can take this money and use it to promote the health and safety of all Rhode Islanders instead of seeing it disappear. We have an opportunity that has laid on the table. And we have for years assumed that 911 and EMS is not part of the healthcare system, but it is.
Based on that cardiac number, I think you've just convinced everybody that it certainly is. Holy moly.
And if we can make it work together as one, we will end up with healthcare that is affordable.
You track the legislature.
better outcomes.
I got 30 seconds. Well, what's the progress of your complaint? Are you getting any traction?
I've written letters. I'm not getting any response so far. I wrote a letter to House Finance Committee again today and sent it out this morning. I'm looking forward to a response. I would like them to, A, dedicate a fund, B, create an independent body of oversight with all the integral parts of the state government that are involved, and C, create a 911 advisory board with members of the community, municipal affairs.
In terms of how the money is used.
Correct.
Right.
Yes, that's how it's done in every other state.
Also, good for you for speaking up. I appreciate both of you coming here. We'll track this. Be right back with a final word. Some of the ambulance data is not good. We don't want to be the junior varsity on all sorts of things, including this particular thing, especially when we're clearly breaking the law. And the governor knows it, and the General Assembly knows it, and they all know it, and they ain't doing nothing about it. Go to foxprovidence.com if you want to sign that petition to get this thing straight. You should do so. We'll see you tomorrow on the radio at 3 until 6 on WPRL. Thanks for tuning in.